Let's say a very good morning, Alex Crook, our chief football correspondent. Alex, a very, very good morning.
Good morning, Crookie.
I'm sure it's a great morning, boys, to be honest.
Yeah, well, you're a United fan, Alex. Can you put your finger on, Alex? Should it be change of manager now, or have the players got to look at themselves in the mirror and say we're not giving it all for the manager?
Don't blame the Glazers for last night, please, Crookie. Not in the mood.
Listen, do you know what? It's very difficult because we've seen this movie before. You look at the body language of the players, you look at the manager in his technical area. He looks completely lost to me, Erik Ten Hag. And I think the most alarming factor is how quickly it's unravelled from third place last season, 2 cup finals, winning a first trophy in 6 years. I think most Manchester United fans went into this summer with optimism that maybe finally, after all the years of dross that's been served up since Sir Alex Ferguson left the corner, have been turned. But that last caller was right. I was at the Wolves game, first game of the season. They got away with murder that night, Manchester United. A better side would have won 4-1. There was the penalty incident right at the end that inexplicably wasn't given against Onana. And I don't think there's been a single good performance from Manchester United this season. Actually, maybe their best performance was when he played the kids against Crystal Palace reserves in the Cup. But even when they've laboured to victories, the style of play is poor. He says the players are trying. He's watching a different set of players to me. I mean, that first goal last night, Mason Mount, who looks totally out of his depth as a Manchester United player, he is poor in the build-up to the goal. Dalot, if you watch it back, Gabby, Dalot actually starts goal side of Almiron and jogs back, and Almiron
he glances and sees him though first, Crookie. He glances over, sees him, then doesn't look again.
And when you see that and you see the reaction of the players as every goal goes in, their heads are slumped, they're trudging back to the halfway line. You've been a player. These players aren't playing for the manager. It's quite as simple as that. And I don't know if it goes back to pre-season when, by all accounts, they were overtrained in America. They had very little downtime on that US tour, which didn't go down particularly well. You've got the Jadon Sancho situation. Now, he's not the most popular man inside that Manchester United dressing room, but players tend to stick together in situations like this. So I think he's created an unwanted problem for himself, Erik Ten Hag. But I think we all know how this ends. You know, the vibe coming out of Manchester United is that Ten Hag still has the backing of the hierarchy. So Jim Ratcliffe, who's likely to come in and take charge of the sporting side of the club, still has faith in the manager, but the players don't. And a lot of fans, I think, are starting to lose faith as well.
Alex, how does he feel? Jim Ratcliffe, how does he feel taking over 1.3 billion, watching that?
Well, it's a massive undertaking, and I sort of agree with what Simon Jordan's been saying. He is only going to be a minority investor, so as much as he wants control of the sporting side of the football club, all the time the Glazers are in situ, he can never really have full control. But the big question I've got, and I think unless something improves dramatically, and they could well lose at Fulham, I think they'll almost certainly lose in Copenhagen, because I was at that game last week and they were lucky to get away with that as well. So they're going to be out the Champions League before the knockout stages. They're out the Carabao Cup, which of course they won last season. They've got very little chance at this stage of making the top 4. So unless something dramatically changes, I think inevitably Ten Hag will pay the price for his job. And once again, this group of players will have another manager fired. Who on earth do you bring in?
I
don't have the answer.
What about Martial last night? Honestly, Crookie, he could have been sitting next to me in the hotel, and watching it on my iPad. Wow, he was terrible. Not interested. He doesn't want to be there, does he, Martial?
Well, do you know what he is? He's a beacon of the decline at Manchester United since Sir Alex Ferguson and David Gill left. Again, they paid a ridiculous fee, a world record fee for a teenager. It was a gamble at the time. If you remember, it was on transfer deadline day. And he's just never lived up to the price tag. And his body language is just about as bad as it gets. But the question is, if I know that and you know that, why on earth does he get picked? You may as well put a kid in from the youth team and play him up front, because you're right, Martial doesn't want to be there. There's other players who clearly aren't interested in getting Manchester United back to anywhere near where they were before. This is a very unlikable group of Manchester United players, because yes, when things are going well, they can produce the odd good performance. They haven't this season, and they give the fans the odd moment. They've become moments United. But by and large, as soon as they face any adversity, they will. There's no character, there's no spine, there's no backbone, there's no leaders. So in answer to your question at the top of this, is Ten Hag going to get fired? Probably, eventually. But are the players to blame? Absolutely, because ultimately, when you pull on that red shirt, that iconic jersey, you have to take pride in your performance. This Newcastle team that beat them last night, 7 players haven't started a Premier League game this season.
They have Matt Ritchie.
Amazing.
Yeah. Exactly. Matt Ritchie's basically doing semi-retirement in the Premier League. The 2 centre-halves haven't played together for a year. Manchester United, quite a strong lineup he named because he knew they needed to try and change momentum. They should have more than enough to beat that Newcastle team. To lose 3-0 at home to that Newcastle team is an absolute disgrace. And we can blame the manager, we can blame the Glazers, and it will always be their fault, by the way. But ultimately, those players have to take a look at themselves. And they are underselling themselves in that shirt, and they're underselling the supporters as well. And fans have had enough.
TalkSPORT Breakfast with Alan Brazil. Thursday and Friday morning, 6 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the TalkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. TalkSPORT.